Let's get started then. For today's tutorial, what you will need is of course the Kali Linux installed. If you do not have it yet, then you can refer to the previous video on this channel, which is linked below, which will teach you and walk you through how to install the latest version of Kali Linux 2019. The other thing you will need is a wireless adapter which is capable of entering the monitor mode. For today's tutorial, I will be using the TP-Link TLWN722N. So this wireless adapter is well known to be used for this purpose. So let's get started then. So launch a terminal, and what we need to do is to put this wireless adapter that we have connected to the virtual machine into monitor mode, and to do that we can use airmon-ng start WLAN0. So WLAN0 is the interface name of the wireless adapter that I've attached to the computer. So once you have entered this command, WLAN0 will then be turned into monitor mode. To check, we can use iwconfig, and you can see WLAN0 is now called WLAN0 mon, which is in monitor mode, which you can see monitor over here. So then, now that we have checked that it is in monitor mode, we can start and proceed to capture surrounding wireless traffic that is around us. So to do that, we use the command arrow dump and enter the wireless interface name, which is this. And from what you can see here is some lists of SSIDs which are listed over here. So over here at ESSIDs will be all the wireless networks that are broadcasting nearby you, and here are the BSSIDs, and the power actually tells you how far away, how strong the signals that you are receiving, and these are the channels that they are broadcasting on. So for today's example, we'll be using the very first one, which is called unknown device. Just a reminder, please do not perform any of these actions on any wireless networks that you are not authorized to perform this on, as it might be illegal, depending on where you are, to actually try to gain unauthorized access to people's wireless network. So unknown device is the test router that we've set up today. So we will be focusing on this unknown device itself to try to get the password. So once you have managed to search for the device you want to attack, next press Ctrl+C to stop the process, and next we will proceed to the next command, which is to instead of scanning the entire surroundings for wireless traffic, now we will focus entirely on our target access point instead. To do this, use back the same command arrow dump -ng BSSID. This is to enter your target BSSID, which in this case we copied and paste it here. After that, you would input -c, which is your target AP channel. So in this case, unknown device has a channel at 6. Next would be --right, which is where you want. So the whole point of capturing the traffic on this SSID is where later on we will de-authenticate users that are connected to this wireless network, and then we will try to let the existing users to reconnect to the router. So when they connect to this router, what we're going to do is we are going to try to capture a handshake, and in this handshake is the hash that we are going to compare with the word list, which is how we are going to get the password. So --right, and then name the output file you want the captured file to be called. So in this case, we'll be calling it testcap. So in the end, add in your wireless interface name, which is in monitor mode, then press enter. So as you can see here, it is only entirely focusing on this unknown device BSS ID only. And if you can see below, this is actually the connected device that is currently connected to this access point. So what we want to do now is to open another window and to try to use another command to try and disconnect this user. You might have more users over here, but in this case I only have one user connected to this router, so the more the better. So next we would be using AirReplay-ng deauthenticate, and if you want to keep spamming the router to deauthenticate all users connected to it, then put at 0, but usually that's not needed. We only need to send around 100 packets over to deauthenticate everyone, so everyone can attempt to reconnect by themselves. After that, input your target access point BSS ID, which is what we've copied just now, and your wireless interface. So once we hit enter, you will see lines of codes over here, and you will see that this power will be disabled later. So let's hit enter. As you can see here, power keeps becoming 0 because we are basically disconnecting all users for 100 times from the router. So once this has complete sending 100 packets over there, this user will attempt to reconnect. So once it reconnects, we will be able to capture the handshake that is being sent over to the router, and then we will then use that handshake to try and compare the hash. So as you can see over here, we have the WPA handshake captured over here. So once we have that, we can actually stop this by pressing Ctrl+C. So this is not required anymore. So once we have this handshake, then of course we need to locate where is that handshake file. So head on over to files, and you can see that there is what we named previously just now, testcap-01.cap and everything else. What we need is only this file, the testcap-01.cap. So what we will be doing next is to launch Aircrack, and then we will compare it with a wordlist file. If you don't have a wordlist file, it's totally fine, don't worry. You can create it yourself, or you can download it from various sites. But for today's tutorial, we will be using a native wordlist that has already been included in this version of Kali Linux. So follow me with this command, and you should reach at the wordlist file that has already been included in your Kali Linux. So as you can see here, there are all kinds of word lists, but for today we are using rocku.txt.gz. So copy rocku.txt.gz, and then we shall move it to, okay, now this stands for home, and as you can see here, now rocku.txt.gz is over here. So now let's cd to home. Okay, now you can see that rocku.txt.gz, gz is like compressed. So to decompress the file, run gunzip gzip -d and the file name. So once that's done, you can see that that's a rocku.txt over here. So what is inside is actually a list of password that's very long. It's a huge file. So depending on what dictionary file you're using, it can be huge, but for today's it's actually 139.9 MB. I've seen gigabytes of word list dictionary files that will take you days to complete running. Okay, now that we have the captured file and also the word list that we're using today, now open a terminal, and now we are going to use Aircrack. So the command is simple, just type aircrack-ng and enter the captured file handshake name, which is testcap-01.cap. After that, enter the word list file. So the address of the word list is in home rocku.txt. Oh, sorry. Oh, so before typing the address for the word list, remember to enter a -w. Okay, now that you see it's running, this is the keys that are tested out of 71207212. So to finish running the whole list on my computer, so it depends on your computing power. It takes 31 minutes 23 seconds for me to run. Because today's password is actually 123456789, so it is actually more common to see password like this all over the world. So I actually tested today's tutorial using this password. So this password is actually part of the word list rocku.txt. So rocku.txt actually uses a lot of common passwords that have been discovered. So within running in like 10 seconds, we managed to find the password, which is 123456789. So depending on your computing power, the speed will be different. So it can go through the word list on much faster or slower speeds. So that is how to get the password using Aircrack. I do not recommend using this method to try and get someone's Wi-Fi password, because I do not believe this is efficient at all, as it depends entirely on your computing resource and also the dictionary file that you use. So after comparing the password, the captured handshake with rocku.txt, we might end up with a failure if the password that is being used is not included in the dictionary file that we are testing on. So maybe after running for days, and you might be returned with a result of a failure, and which is why I do not like this. So what I would usually rely on is another method called social engineering. I'm a strong believer in the saying, the weakest link among all security is and will always be humans. Rather than targeting the password of the wireless network and try to brute force with a word list or dictionary, which I have no idea whether it will succeed, social engineering exploits the human vulnerability, where in this case what we are trying to do is to trick the human to give us the correct password. So this would usually take around 10 to 15 minutes to complete, as compared to a huge time required for brute force. So stay tuned for the next episode, where I will be showing you how to perform a social engineering attack on a wireless network.